Okay. All right, so we are recording now. So again, welcome to our little offer holder event. I'm so glad that you could all join us today. And we're going to try to go through some of the slides pretty quickly just to give you an idea of what to expect over the next few months. But we really want to hear from our students to kind of hear what their experience has been like, and also be able to take some questions for you. So we're going to leave the most time for that. And like I said, earlier, we're going to hope to wrap up within the next probably 45 to 50 minutes. So any of you who need to, go on and, finish up work or do other projects for the day can do so. And also if you do need to leave a little bit early, that's no problem. We're going to send out the recording along with these slides fairly shortly after we wrap up, probably within like the next week or so. So you'll have these resources at your fingertips. So let's see. There we go. We've already done the introductions. So just to expect, like I said, so we are going to talk a little bit about, Colette's going to go over a little bit of information about the College of Arts, Celtic Studies, and Social Sciences. I'm going to talk a little bit about some things to kind of think about before you arrive to Cork. And then again, we've got our lovely students with us who are going to talk a little bit about what their experience has been on our campus thus far. So I'm going to hand it over to Colette. Colette, if you want to speak a little bit about the college and then also, any of the supports or things that our students here can look forward to or expect to find once they arrive with us.
Yes,
It's all
thanks
yours.
very much.
Floor is
Thank
yours.
you. Thank you, Maggie. So the College of Arts, Celtic Studies and Social Science is split into 10 schools. So I know from your introductions, there's a representation from a wide variety of our programs covering the creative arts, the English literature, to the social sciences. From our side, we're well connected with the university supports. I guess the key thing I would highlight is the Skills Centre, which is located in the basement of the Boole Library. And this Skills Centre is complimentary for all students studying either an undergrad or a master's degree, and they provide support, academic support in terms of presentations, but also in terms of assignments and submitting assignments and maybe helping you to understand the academic correcting. So it's a great resource for you because if you're coming from a different university, it's always good to know how do the professors mark different assignments, different dissertations, proposals. It's led and managed by PhD students, so they've been through process themselves, and as I said, it's all complimentary. You make an appointment and they have a wide variety of offerings there, so they do it either group work or one-to-one. Another resource that we have linked with the college is the careers office. So I know some of you mentioned programs where you will have an inbuilt work placement as part of your master's, particularly the international public policy and diplomacy, and also field work within anthropology. You'll also have placement for the museum studies. So for these, we have dedicated work placement managers within the college, and they work closely with our careers team. So while your semester one will be very much focused, I'll be on hand to give you support along the way as well before you transition over.
Excellent. Thanks, Colette. Okay, so I'm just going to overview a few things. These are like FAQs that I get a lot from folks around this time of year. And the resources, I have another slide kind of at the end that has links to all of this. So you will have that in your inbox fairly shortly. So first, let's see, first off, and apologies, this is kind of geared more toward undergraduates. So, but I would say for housing, we do have quite a lot we have a lot of options in Cork. So it's probably going to behoove you to start looking at housing now. And there is a lot of inventory available in Cork City. So what I will do is kind of send you the housing resources so you can make a choice that is going to work out the best for your situation. Two kind of different styles of housing that we have in Cork would be kind of the student apartment based housing, which would either be owned by UCC or privately owned by a provider in the city. Oftentimes, it's hard to tell, which is which because they often look the same. They're all apartment style, so you would have your own room, potentially your own ensuite bathroom as well, and then a kitchenette and a living space that you would share with typically anywhere from three to five other students from UCC or college or students from some of the surrounding colleges in the area. So that's one choice. I would say the private housing is, there's quite a lot of inventory, so shouldn't have an issue booking a room if that's something that you're interested in. The other route you can go down is, looking for house or apartment shares, depending on, what your situation is. That's fine as well. And we have a really fantastic residential services office that can provide a lot of resources and guidance around navigating this. So again, I will send that out to you. And again, apologies, do disregard this little bit of information that I've written down here that's geared toward undergraduate students. Next up, health insurance. So one of the things that you do need to have is proof of private health insurance. If you have a plan here in the United States or one in Canada, it may satisfy this requirement. There are a few different parameters that you have to fulfill, but you can also purchase a plan in Ireland. And on the International Office website, we have a few different examples of what's worked in the past for our students that we can recommend. So again, that'll be listed on the resources that I send you so you can go through and make the choice that works best for you. When it comes to immigration, students from North American countries, so the US and Canada, do not need a visa to enter Ireland. So you don't really need to do anything when it comes to immigration until you step foot onto Irish soil. And once that happens at the airport, you will get a stamp on your passport. So you will have up to about 90 days to then register with the Immigration Bureau in Cork City and get your residency permit that will be good for the full year. There are a few different documents and things that you will need to have at this appointment, but we will start kind of prepping you for that. And by we, I mean the international office as we go through the summer months. And we will also actually have a few different sessions during orientation where a member of our staff will walk you through this process as well. And this permit will be what you need to travel outside of Ireland during the year. And also if you choose to work part-time, that will be what you need to kind of get your paperwork to be allowed to work legally in the country. But again, you don't need an entry visa, so you don't need to do anything now to satisfy any of the immigration requirements. You can do all of that once you arrive in Cork City in the fall. And finally, when it comes to finances, tuition is typically paid in two different installments. The first would be due at registration in August, and then the second is due on the 31st of January. And housing payments are made separately, kind of depending, again, on what style of housing you choose. If you are utilizing FAFSA loans or any other types of loans from elsewhere, these are accepted for both tuition and living costs. And I do have some FAFSA information on the next page, as well as some other resources to help you kind of suss out what the cost of living is and how to budget for your year. So, like I said, short and sweet. So again, we do have, if you haven't already done so, I would recommend going to the International Office website. This is where I've gleaned a lot of this information. There's a lot of resources there, so you could spend a lot of your day doing a lot of this. But there's information about getting to Cork as to, what's going to be the most convenient. The health insurance information that I mentioned, more information about housing and immigration, as well as cost of living, kind of fee and payment info. And then if you're utilizing US federal aid, or the Canadian loans. We have information about that there. I've also included my contact information as well as Colette's and our general international office email address if you need anything. So that's going to do it for me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then I'm going to hand it over to our students to introduce themselves again and then maybe tell us a little bit about kind of, what got them interested in Cork and how they're getting on. So anyway, yeah, guys, if you wouldn't mind, join us again. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about the program that you're studying, that would be fantastic. Becca, you're up first because I can see you. You're next to me on the screen.
Hi. Yeah, so like I said, my name is Becca. I'm originally from Philadelphia also. I probably should have said that in the beginning, but I am in the master's program in creative writing. And I was looking at various different MFAs in the US at first, and then I sort of expanded my sort of scope, I guess, and I came across UCC via like I think I was just looking up like creative writing programs in Ireland specifically. I had a very specific idea for what I wanted to do my thesis on, that focused a lot specifically in poetry that involves Irish folklore. And through that sort of avenue, I found UCC. And it's been absolutely wonderful in terms of like the creative writing practice that is sort of encouraged in that like aspect of the master's. It's been like the most wonderful experience. And yeah, I can't say enough good things really. Um, and then in terms of like what my particular master's sort of schedule kind of looks like, there's classes like for about I would say like 6 to 7 hours for 2 days of the week, and then the rest of the week we're given time to write specifically, which is honest. It's one of the best parts of the master's is that it gives you so much space to like work in your own creative practice. And the other cool thing about the master's at UCC in creative writing anyway, specifically is that it also does have a placement. So basically it's sort of you self-lead it's self-led. So you basically locate a placement involved in some aspect of creative writing, be it editing, be it like magazine editorial work, etc. Working for Lit Mags, and you do that for like about a week. So I'm currently doing editing work on a magazine that's being put together by the master's cohort. It's called Soup. I can hopefully maybe send the link to someone so that we can sort of get that out there, which is basically a collection of student work. And I'm the head poetry editor for it. So that sort of that's counting as my placement. But yeah, that's sort of what my kind of life in the master's is looking like right now. Yeah.
Cool. I did it. I muted myself and forgot. Anyway, thank you, Becca. Buddy, if you wouldn't mind going next, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So my name again is Buddy Todd, and I'm with the Theater and Performative Practices Master's Program. I came here via Seattle, so that's kind of the easiest answer for that, but I'm an Air Force brat, so I've kind of lived all over the world. What brought me to UCC is kind of an interesting journey. I've always had kind of an affinity for Ireland in general because I'm part Indigenous. I'm a member of the Choctaw tribe of Oklahoma. And my tribe actually enjoys a very unique relationship with Ireland because during the Trail of Tears, we actually sent some resources to Ireland for the potato famine. And there's actually a monument in Middleton that's actually acknowledging kind of the relationship between my tribe and Ireland. And so there was already that kind of foundation. And then in 2016, I came over to Ireland for the Christmas holidays and spent about 4 days in Cork and actually stumbled upon the campus, the UCC campus. And I made a joke to my partner. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if I went to school here? Not thinking I was actually like going to probably manifest something. And then the college and my tribe ended up having an even deeper relationship. And so I became more aware of the programs. I've been a theater practitioner for decades, acting, directing, choreographing, and now devising. And so when I found more information about the theater performative practices program, I felt like that just fit right in with kind of the multiple plates I like to spin in my own creative practice. So that was kind of what got me over here. So my program is very, very deep. It looks at theater as an art form of social change. So it's not so much about, okay, so we're gonna do Hamlet, and so we're gonna direct Hamlet and audition actors and costume them and then do opening, and now we did Hamlet. It takes kind of a more holistic approach to theater in terms of how can it be a device for change. So last semester, one of the big projects we worked on is in partnership with one of the parks here, Glen River Park, which is basically kind of a nature reclamation space. It used to be an industrial area. It started out as like I think it started out as a brewery, and then it became a fertilizer factory, and then the city decided to take it down and just kind of let nature take over and turn it into a park. And so it's got Glen River flowing through it. But to look at, so for our program to kind of look at theater as a device to address global climate change, my cohort led by Jules Gilson, who is an incredible theater practitioner. She's a dancer and works in textiles and stuff. So she led us through this exercise where we basically devised this immersive site-specific piece of performance that basically, instead of it being about a particular character and their adventure, the park itself and sort of nature as a larger phenomenon became kind of the featured thing. And so there were kind of abstract movements, there was poetry, there was song. My cohort, but we all come from different disciplines. I'm like I said, I'm kind of the many hats person, but I've got several dancers. We've got a costumer, we've got a dramaturge, we've got entrepreneurs. So it's quite a diverse range of kind of virtuosic skills in the cohort. And so we just kind of bring those together in different combinations to devise different pieces. And so yeah, and then this semester we've been focusing much more on the social justice issues. So we've been looking at feminisms, we've been looking at queer theory, we've been looking at the racialization of arts practices, and again, looking for ways through performance that we could address particular issues that are kind of resonant with us. It's a lot of fun. It's really intense, but I really love it. I really love this area. It's a really great community. I would probably say in-class time isn't quite as intense as the student who spoke before me, but there's a lot of homework because we're always doing drafts of different kinds of performance, scores or scripts, writing, choreographing, envisioning. So it's very homework heavy, and then the class time isn't like I said, quite as intense.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, buddy. Katie, if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself and your program, that'd be great.
All right. Hi, my name's Katie. I saw that there are a couple other museum studies students here, so I'll try to give you an overview of the program and kind of some of the things I like about it. I've also got my cat here, Max. But in terms of like why I picked this program, it was kind of a weird, kind of roundabout way of coming around to it. I had been a museum educator for about 6 or 7 years, sort of leveled out and knew I needed to kind of get a qualification to really kind of make it to the next sort of stage in my career. And then at the same time, me and my husband were thinking about moving abroad. And so sort of these two life stages sort of came together at the same time, and we were looking around at colleges, and Ireland kind of quickly became one of our, points of interest. And really, of all like the museum studies masters in Ireland, UCC's seemed the most kind of comprehensive. A lot of other programs were kind of just focused on one aspect of museum studies, where what I really like about the UCC Museums Masters program is that it's very not broad, but like it is in a way. Like if you're more into curation, you can go down that route. If you're like me and you're more into museum education, you can go down that route. But you learn a little bit about everything in a way that really, as someone who's worked in museums, it wasn't all like when I'm in class, you're not just learning about like theoretical stuff. It really is like this is what these concepts will look like in a museum in the workplace. So that's a really, really good feature of this program. Also, the work placements are fantastic. Ireland is a very small country, and so UCC, the staff there, like especially in my program, they know like everyone in all the museums in Ireland. It's really fantastic. We've had the opportunity to visit museums in Kerry, in Dublin, in Limerick, and when we're there, we get introduced to everyone and we get to see the behind the scenes of everything. And so it's really kind of a fantastic way to network as well. I'm feeling like I'm getting very prepared to graduate and kind of hopefully find a job in a museum in Ireland. Gosh, everyone did such a great job talking about their programs. If the museum studies students have like specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those at some point in the later in the session as well, if there's like a Q&A. But it's a really fantastic, comprehensive, really vocational based museum studies program. So if that's what you're looking for, it's been really, really great.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. And we will have a Q&A, so sit tight. And Michael, last but not least, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself again and telling us a little bit about the program that you're studying with us.
Absolutely. So I'm Michael Frim. I'm from Chicago, or I'm from near Chicago. I'm from Evanston, Illinois, originally. I am studying towards a master's in Celtic civilization, which is not the most transparent name for the program, but what it essentially means is medieval Celtic language and literature. So Old Irish and Middle Welsh language and the narratives and texts that were produced in those languages, which is really fun. And for the question of why Ireland, why Cork, I think that's very easy for me to answer. Wanting to study Celtic studies and Celtic languages, there's really no better place to do it than in Ireland. And Cork is really an excellent university for it as well. And I can't speak to any department other than the Department of Early and Medieval Irish, but I imagine this is true for a lot of departments here as well. It's small in the sense that though the university in general is really large and teaches I don't even know how many students, the department makes it feel like you're in a small, intimate learning environment, which just makes studying here all the more enriching and fun, and more you feel like you're more connected to the material you're learning and to the people that you're learning it with. So I've really liked that aspect of the program. And otherwise, it's just a really fun program. It's the perfect balance, I'd say, of rigor and language study and literary analysis, but mixing it also with really friendly and that make what could be a really hard experience just really fun, and making the hard parts feel very well worth it. And I heard someone was thinking about the master's in archaeology. My background's in archaeology, but I shifted to the medieval language side of Ireland. But I was excited to hear someone here is doing archaeology as well. I'm not sure what else to say, but the program's really fun, really nice, and learning medieval Irish and Welsh language is really exciting. A lot of sitting in the library, but it's really fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So I think I'll open up the floor to some questions, and like if you want to use the raise hand function on Zoom or pop a question into the chat, we can kind of do it that way. So whatever you're most comfortable with, I'll try to kind of go back and forth as fairly as I can between the chat and calling on people. Okay, Kayla, I saw you first, so go ahead.
Hi. So I'm curious from the students that the students are currently studying, how early did you come over to Ireland? I'm currently looking at flights, and so I want to make sure I don't come over too early, but I still have time to settle in.
Yeah, and guys, feel free to answer at your, I'm not going to call on anybody, so just come unmute yourself and feel free to answer.
I got here a week before my classes started, which coming from Seattle, that's an 8-hour time change adjustment. And a week was just about enough time for me to kind of get my circadian rhythms kind of calibrated with on Irish time from West Coast. My recommendation would be to double check to see how early your housing is available, because getting closer to that, you're kind of getting the most bang for your buck in terms of having being in your housing while you're paying for it. But also too, Cork City has a lot to offer culturally. There's a lot of you want to find where you're going to get your groceries and things like that. And so giving yourself a good buffer before you have to start classes, and even just exploring campus without the pressure of having to be in class on time. So if you can give yourself at least a week, but even a little bit more would be good.
And sorry, real quick, I might just fold in this question that I saw in the chat around housing. So as you're answering the question around how early did you come over, if you wouldn't mind kind of saying a little bit about the housing that you're in, how you found it, and how you like it.
Well, since I answered the first, I'll go ahead and just finish. I'm with private housing, but it's private student housing. So I'm in kind of an en-suite deal where I have my own bedroom bathroom situation, and then we have a shared kitchen lounge area. I found it from the international website, the international student website. Getting housing can be a little bit tricky, of course, especially the closer it gets. So the advice of looking early is really good advice. I really like it here. I am on there's in downtown Cork, there's a little island where the river kind of splits north and south. I'm right in the middle of that. So the English Market's a block away, a lot of really cool places. So I really like the convenience of this location. And the rent is very reasonable. Everybody's really helpful. So it's been a really good situation here.
Cool. Anybody else want to chime in? Becca, I saw you come on.
I can speak to that. So I am in private student accommodation. It's I'm in a sort of studio apartment situation. So it's just me, bed, kitchen, bathroom. Rent was also really reasonable for that. I was living in Boston before I came here, so yeah, it's more reasonable than I was used to. And I also found my housing via the international student page. I would definitely say to start looking earlier than I did. I started looking in around June, and I felt like I was a bit late on that. So start looking earlier than June.
Great advice. Katie or Michael, do you want to chime in on that? Or are you good?
I guess I can offer. So I'm in. I started in student accommodation, and then I've moved since to private accommodation. So I really recommend like housing. The housing situation, like renting wise, like it's very competitive in Cork. It's affordable, but it's competitive. So it's more of a matter of finding a place than being able to afford it. Which was like I was from Boston as well, so like that was quite the change. So I personally, we found it easiest to start in a student accommodation, and then once we were in Ireland, it was much more easy to like reach out to landlords and like kind of network and get familiar with the area and whatnot. So if you're a little bit nervous of, or if you were thinking about finding like private accommodation, you might want to consider maybe like if you aren't having good luck getting hold of landlords or finding a place, it'll probably be much easier once you're in the country. So that probably will mean being in student accommodation for a little bit until you can find permanent accommodation. But it's all of a matter like of whether or not you want to stay in Ireland. It's like me and my husband are in a very weird like situation where we were wanting to stay here permanently, so finding non-student accommodation made more sense. But if you're only planning on staying the year, it'll probably be much easier just to stick with student accommodation. So yeah.
Yeah, I can speak to student accommodation as well. I'm going to be in student accommodation my whole time, and I've really enjoyed it. I've had no problems with it. My greatest recommendation from hearing everybody, all the people I know, is get started on housing as early as you can, as early as you know, and I'm sure you'll be able to find something you like that's affordable. And I'd recommend student accommodation. I've really enjoyed it, but I also have a lot of friends who are in private accommodation that have also really enjoyed it. So just get started on that early, and I think it'll be really good. And I'd also agree with Buddy that a week is, I think, a reasonable time to get settled, so that you're getting settled in Ireland time is not overlapping with your getting settled in school time. Though if your housing starts even earlier, Ireland's a really cool place to explore, especially before the rain starts in the later fall. So if you can be there in the summer just to take the trains around and see cool things, I'd recommend that as well. There's a lot of real cool stuff to see.
Awesome. Thank you all. And Eileen, I saw you raise your hand, so I'll move over to you and then I'll take another question from the chat.
Okay, thank you. I have so many questions, but one thing is, I know you're saying come a week ahead, but isn't there like an orientation? Is there a requirement to be here early in regard to like an orientation or international orientation or registration or anything like that? I guess that's for you, Colette.
Oh yeah, there will be an orientation, and the dates of the specific orientation will go out by email. But yes, so they will be a few days before your term starts, and they will cover everything. But we hope that you'll have all that information ahead of your arrival as well. Yeah, so there's
Okay.
no, yeah.
But a
Some
week is plenty of time to make
yeah.
the orientation. Okay.
Yeah, and some students, depending on their circumstances, arrive a few days in advance, but lots try to make it more if they can.
And then my second question is, I do have housing. I went to a private student housing. It was on your site, but was private. And they don't know, they start on September 7th. Is that when classes start? September 7th? That's when their housing starts. So where do people stay if your housing is not available? Is there some place in particular people have been staying if the housing is not available? Just to know. Hi, yes, Katie.
So we moved a little bit early and we ended up having to stay in a hotel for a couple of days. I don't know if that's standard across the board, but that was kind of the option we were left with. You might be able to contact them and see if you can move in early, but probably it depends. But yeah, that's what we ended up doing.
Yeah, I did contact them and they said they're going to look into it, but they haven't decided yet. But I was just trying to be proactive. And what hotel did you stay in? Was there one that's particularly close or?
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask. So we moved
Okay.
with our cat, so we had to find a pet-friendly hotel, and that was
Okay.
all the way out in Middleton. So, but there are plenty of really great like hotels and bed and breakfasts and guest house all around Cork, and especially around UCC. So you shouldn't have trouble finding something, especially this far ahead.
Okay. And Colette, I have lots of questions specific to my program. Can I
Oh,
just
yeah.
email you about them later?
Yeah, absolutely. I can come back to
Okay.
you. Yeah, I can revert to you on that. And I can send you a list of some bed and breakfasts or guest houses that are located very near to the campus as well, just as options for you to consider if you need to kind of get a place for a night or two while you're awaiting your accommodation. So I'll send you a list of those. And then, yeah, do absolutely send me an email for the MA Anthropology.
Great. Thank you so much.
Excellent. So I'm going to go to this question from Casey in the chat for our students that are here. What, excuse me, what was the biggest challenge that you faced coming from the US to Ireland? If you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit about that. Whoever wants to go first.
I'm sure it was understanding the Cork accent.
Honestly, I think for me the biggest challenge was just that initial getting settled bit. I mean, as a US English speaking person, the language barrier doesn't exist because there's no adjustment there. But in terms of, things that it was easy to kind of take for granted in terms of like, where am I going to find toothpaste? Where am I going, where should I get my phone? All those kind of little things. And yes, I do recommend getting an Irish phone. Just all of those things were just kind of a bit of a challenge just because it felt like a big video game side quest. But once those things got taken care of, it's gotten a lot smoother. And again, that's usually just at the very beginning. And I think that comes with moving anywhere.
Any other takers with the challenge question, Michael?
Yeah, happy to answer this one too. Pretty much exactly the same for me. Like a lot of the mini inconveniences of not knowing how the small things work, and the things that aren't on the traveling to Ireland blogs, like how to get a leap card, how to get a student leap card, things like that, which is the bus card. You can buy it at convenience stores, for those wondering, and the student card you can apply for online, which I would highly recommend. It's significantly cheaper, and that you're supposed to wave to call buses when they're passing. Otherwise, they just pass the bus stop. That there's a set that pharmacies and grocery stores are separate. There's no CVS or Walgreens. You have to get your toothpaste at pharmacies and your groceries at Tesco or Lidl. So just those kinds of things. But ultimately, I found the travel guides really, really helpful. The websites for Americans traveling to Ireland really had very helpful tips and tricks for how to find out all of that stuff. And like Buddy said, after a couple of weeks, once you know all that stuff, you feel a lot more comfortable and you feel a lot more confident in Ireland and walking around and knowing where to get food and things like that.
Excellent. That's great advice. And I saw just kind of a bit around the phone situation. There's a few different options that you can go with, and like, why would you get an Irish phone? But I think, like for me, and it's been a while since I studied in Ireland, but if you'll have to check with your provider, but if your phone is unlocked, you can get like an Irish SIM card that will work in Ireland. So that check with your provider here in the US and see if that's something that can happen. But you can also just kind of purchase an Irish phone, get like a fairly reasonable plan with one of the carriers like in Ireland. I wouldn't recommend kind of paying a lot of money for an international plan based in the US. in my experience, it's not all the way reliable, and it can really get expensive, especially if you're going to be in the country for a full year. But yeah, that's why you might want to get an Irish phone or an Irish SIM card while you're with us.
There are, in terms of SIM cards specifically, there are also options depending on like what US carrier you have, where you can like sort of you can keep your American number by making your SIM card digital so that you can get a physical Irish SIM card. That's what I did. It was the cheaper option in the end for me anyway. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that, Becca. That's really interesting. Awesome. Okay, so Colette, this might be a little bit more for you, but Granger asked if it's possible to enroll in an extra class like Irish 101 alongside your program coursework.
Oh yes, and Granger, you're doing the arts management and creative producing, isn't it? And you'd like to maybe enroll in a kind of an elective module. I'll double check if you can, and you know if it's fits in with your kind of timetable and if that is feasible. I can check that. You may not get any credits for it because it's different to the course you're doing, but yeah, I can definitely check with the team to see if that's feasible, and I'll come back to you.
Yeah. And I think on that note, like there are a lot, especially in languages, there are a lot of kind of non-credit courses that are offered, you know, like Irish or something else. So like if you don't have room, you know, for credit in your schedule and you want to learn more about kind of Ireland and Irish language or culture in some respect, there are lots of opportunities to do that. So yeah, it's definitely something that you can find throughout the campus. All right, I'm going to move down to this question from Maggie about packing. How did you, for my current students, how did you handle packing and figuring out kind of what you wanted to bring, what you didn't want to bring, what was necessary? How did you find that? What advice do you have to give to the prospective students here?
Okay, so I'll jump in. Let me preface it by saying that I hate hacking with a passion. So having said that, for me, um, it came down to what are things that I need to have with me that I know I can't live without. Both on a logistic level in terms of like, yeah, you can bring 90 days worth of prescriptions with you and be okay. But also and then like for me clothing, because I came with one big suitcase and one tiny suitcase, so it was all about looking at like versatile clothing, things that can be used for multiple things, as far as like it can go casual, it can go formal, it can go kind of business like. So it was just, that was kind of just the big question was, what can I not live without? Things are pretty affordable here, so it, you know, like toothbrush and things that, you know, aren't like don't live without, like you can pick things up obviously when you're here. And there are also like buy nothing groups, and the charity shops are also really nice. I found a really nice pair of Adidas shoes for like 20 euros. It was amazing. So yeah, just deciding for yourself like what's essential, what is something that I actually can't live without, either because it's like a medical thing or you know, sentimental thing. I do recommend bringing a couple of sentimental things just to kind of have little pieces of home with you. But yeah, just that central question of what can I not live without.
And I would say too, for I think that's great advice, buddy. And I'd say don't overthink it, because like anything that you need, you can buy in Cork, and you know, it's fairly cost effective. Like definitely don't overpack when it comes to like don't bring your own linens, don't worry about bringing pots and pans and things like that. Your housing might already have them, or you can get them fairly inexpensively. You know, I think like the basics are like things that can be used in multi ways, because as we might have mentioned, the weather changes quite a bit. but it's never as cold, typically not as cold as it can get, certainly here on the East Coast, and usually not as hot as it can get either in the United States. So items that can be layered, good sturdy shoes that can withstand a little bit of moisture here and there, and in a jacket that can do the same. I think those are going to be like your definite must-haves. And as you learn the lay of the land and you decide like, oh, I guess, I maybe do want to have a heavier coat than what I brought, you can buy that pretty easily in the shops in Cork.
Just if I can interject too, Cork has amazing charity shops. I haven't seen, they're a little bit different than the ones in the US. Like I feel like in the US there might just be like one charity shop like in a town, but like North Main Street has 5. And so you can get tons of really good, cheap, like home goods and clothes and things like that. So definitely make use of those as well. And a lot of accommodation will come with a lot of stuff like pots, pans, silverware, like things you wouldn't even think of will probably be there. So, yeah.
I'd also add, just to, echoing everyone else, you can pretty much find anything you need or want that you could get in America in Cork as well. But I did find that some over-the-counter medicines are at least different. So I'm lactose intolerant, for instance, and very reliant on lactate pills. And you can get, lactase enzyme in the pharmacies, but I found them to be very expensive. So things like lactate pills, if you need those, or NyQuil, is something also that I couldn't find in the pharmacies in Ireland. So things like that, I would also recommend bringing if you'd like. But otherwise, I've been able to find pretty much anything I've needed in various shops in Cork.
Great. And let's see, I think we only have time for maybe one more question. So I apologize for not being able to get to everything here in the chat. But speaking to student life, like, the extracurriculars, the clubs, societies, like the community that you found, can my current students kind of speak a little bit to that and what the student life is like in UCC and in Cork?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, my experience of student life has been very much surrounding like my cohort. So all of the other students on my course, I've been really blessed to have like an incredible group of writers. So sort of the things that we've sort of established like weekly writing groups, like a lot of just us hang out and write together. I think that for me, that's been like my like biggest connection to student life has been through my cohort. However, a lot of people in my cohort are also sort of involved in societies as well, or in like clubs. So I have a couple friends who play club sports. I have a lot of friends who are part of like film society and other things. And sort of through my friends have experienced sort of that aspect of student life, and that's been really incredible. But there's tons and tons of options in terms of like societies that you can sort of be a part of and that you can experience.
I would definitely second what Becca said about societies and clubs. It's a really huge community out here. There's dozens, perhaps 100 clubs and societies of different kinds, and you can find something for you for sure. And then for my museum studies students out there, the program is quite small. There's only 12 people in my cohort, and kind of as a result, you become really close with your classmates. So I'm not sure how that looks in different courses, but at least in museum studies, you spend a lot of time together and you really do form like a close bond. And then there's lots of other international students at UCC, and they're all looking for friends too. They're all kind of in the same boat as you. And so you'll always have that community to kind of fall back on as well. Yeah.
Hey, Buddy or Michael, if you'd like to weigh in, you don't have to, but last chance.
Yes, I'll just.
Oh, after you.
Thanks. Yeah, just to definitely affirm what's been said before in terms of clubs and societies, but I'll also say in general, Cork is a very friendly place. My housing is located in the middle of a lot of like areas where there are like pubs and restaurants and things. And that first week I was here, like I would just pick a pub and just spend some time. And I wasn't by myself for very long. Somebody would strike up a conversation, hear my American accent, and tell me the history of some random thing that was in the room. So I think as long as in addition to all the other resources that are available, I think just a general attitude of kindness and openness, it's just very easy to meet people and network and make friends. Of course, within the university, of course, with your cohort. My cohort's at 7, so it's very tiny, but we are all really close, and we've been really fortunate to have 7 personalities that work really well together. But beyond that, just in general, Cork is a very, very friendly place.
I'm happy to weigh in as well. Really have to emphasize and echo what everyone has said about clubs, SOCs, and or clubs, societies, and classes. Those are really the places that I've met. I've met my best friends in Ireland. I'd say clubs and societies range in size as well. So there are really big clubs and SOCs, especially the program based ones like the Law Society or the Medicine Society. And I know a lot of people have met a lot of people through those big ones. The International Society is a massive one, of course, but I've had a lot of luck with the smaller ones because you really get to meet and get to know people. I'd also say don't be afraid of clubs and societies. At first glance, when I was seeing all the like ads and posters, it felt like it was going to be it was mostly geared to undergrads, which is not true at all. I found that a lot of clubs and societies have a bunch of master's students and PhD students and undergrads as well. But it runs the gamut. A lot of people are there, and I found that they were great places to meet people. Don't be afraid to say, hey, if you want to go to the pub later, and get to know people outside of the official club or society or class setting. But yeah, essentially just echoing what everyone else has said.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you to our students who joined us this evening, and thank you to all of you who took some time out of your day to learn more about UCC and what to expect. I know we weren't able to get to all of the questions in the chat there. So if you do have questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to myself or Colette. And then we'll do our best to kind of connect you with the right resources. So once again, we're going to, once we get the recording cleaned up, we're going to send that out, and then the slides with the kind of the different resources on them, we'll be disseminating those as well. Okay, so I think that's it from us. So we hope you all have a really great evening. If you do need anything else, please feel free to reach out, but take care of yourselves, and we look forward to seeing you in UCC in the fall. So have a great night, a great evening, everyone.
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.